Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Franti.
Welcome back to another. This is going to be an exciting edition of the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show, especially since Gino's not here.
Gina's not here?
No Gino here. Anyways, we love being with you every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to share with you what you need to know, want to know, and should know about real estate and finance and so much more. Now, almost 5 years guiding you to personal financial wellness, and we do that with the very best professionals we can find, and we have one of our favorites here today, and also one of the hottest and most favorite topics today, especially out here in Santa Clarita, and that is all about college planning. And that means how to get in, where to get in, what's new, and we have the expert, Mr. Robert Schwartz with Premier College Guidance, with us to share a lot of new changes in the college world. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Robert?
I would indeed, Don. If I could play a theme song underneath as a bed today, it would be The Wind of Change by the Scorpions. There's a lot of change.
Dating yourself now, you know that.
I never date myself, thank you. But there's a lot of different changes that are either just now coming to fruition or things that have just recently changed that our families need to be aware of. What does it mean? Why does it matter? What do we do about it? How do we be most ready and prepared to take the next steps towards the college of our dreams?
I love that. All right, again, Mr. Robert Schwartz with Premier College Guidance. He's been on our show at least, 8 to 10 times with some of the best topics and best information we've ever seen. You can get a lot of this information. In fact, why don't you join us here in the Vault Media Studio? And we built our custom-built studio just for you right here at Skyline Home Loans. And you can join us by going to donandgino.com, DONANDGINO.com. Click on the live streaming button, and voila, we're waving at you now. You can actually enter the studio and learn so much about what you need to know, or your friends need to know, your neighbors need to know, your grandkids need to know, about college entrance, college opportunities, and so much more.
Well, why don't we dive right in, and we start with something that I know every family has said, they're confused about it. What's going on? When do I do it? How do I do it? What are the differences between them? And those would be standardized tests. Those pesky S.A.Ts and P.S.A.Ts and A.C.Ts. Oh, my.
Yeah, you sound like a rapper.
No. not even close.
DJ Robert Flash?
Oh, it's DJ Chubb. Yeah, it's very, very bad. Former career.
Well, actually, before we dive in, because a lot of you out there going, who's Robert Schwartz? In case you haven't heard the show before, and again, 5 years now, over 800 YouTube videos on donandgino.com with the best professionals in this town. In fact, we've actually put together the best of the best out here. We're talking most of these professionals have 15 to 30 years experience out here in Santa Clarita, accountable to you, accountable to us, and you can find out more by going to aprgi.com. That's aprgi.com. What does that stand for? America's Professional Resource Group. These are the best, and Robert Schwartz with Premier College Guidance is our chosen college planning professional.
That would be me.
That'd be you. So why don't you give a little background and your experience, because you're not just a plan. It's a one-stop shop. Plus, you're a national speaker. You go around speaking everywhere, helping people out. But it's not just a lot of, let's say, college planners play around with the money side of things, and it gets very expensive. But there's so much more to college planning than just that. And I love that you and Trevor handle everything from A to Z.
We do. We love what we do. And one of the reasons I got into this industry was I didn't have that person. When I was 15 and 16 and 17, I was a first-generation college student. My grandparents didn't go to college. I had no idea what I was doing, and the best advice I got was, and I'm not kidding when I say this, my cousin Russ, love him dearly, who said, and I quote, "Dude, check the box." 4 or 5 times later of "Dude, check the box," that's how I ended up getting into UCLA.
Oh, that worked out well.
It worked out
Go
all
Bruins.
right. You definitely go Bruins. I bleed the blue and the gold. I am proudly wearing the blue for the Bruins today.
All right.
But I also look back on that experience and say, maybe I could have had an even better college experience had I understood myself and what all of my college choices were really all about.
I had no clue. Definitely, my dad basically said, hey, there's a good college right down the road, which is, and you went there also.
I did.
Cal State Northridge, and it was easy for him and very expensive for him.
No doubt about it. And considering the cost of college, the Cal State system is a relative bargain, but there are other things we don't consider, like, well, what is the average student's graduation time at CSUN, which is
trying to get
6
classes,
years.
yeah.
So you start to factor in, well, it's a cheaper education, but those 2 extra years being in college make it much more expensive than you might have anticipated, and you're now 2 years behind in the process of getting that job or getting to graduate school, which means you actually lost income because of attendance at that school. Now you start to look at the whole picture and say, wow, I never really thought of college in those terms. And that's part of the reason our business exists, our industry exists, is to help families make better college decisions.
And for you parents out there, that means your child is stuck in your home 2 more years on top of it. All right. So, Rob, why don't we talk about some of the changes? You're always on top of your game. I mean, every time you come in here, you inform us. Now, because you go around speaking to a lot of high schools and colleges on the topics that you do, you're always on top of your game. I know us doing the show helps us make sure that we're staying in front of the curve. And I love that you do that too, because by constantly challenging yourself and studying, you see things before other people do. In fact, if you go online to dongino.com, click on live streaming, I have my crystal ball here, because by paying attention, we usually know what's going to happen long before the media does. So why don't you talk about these new changes?
Absolutely. So standardized testing is the first place I want to go, because everyone knows the S.A.T., or at least they think they know the S.A.T., and the P.S.A.T. and the A.C.T. So let's lay the groundwork. Let's start with the newest exam, which is the P.S.A.T., which was taken by your students in October of the prior year. They've most recently just gotten their scores back, mainly electronically. I believe this week will be the first time College Board is releasing physical score reports. The scoring system is changed. The test is changed. It is a completely different exam than it was 1 year ago. So we've got the old test, which was a much shorter version of the S.A.T. reasoning test, which, in all honesty, wasn't that good of a predictor of how well you do on the S.A.T. In its new version, it is much, much more similar to the current version of the S.A.T., which is being released in March. Brand new, first time. We'll talk about that in a minute. The scoring system has changed dramatically. It's now a math verbal only test. Parents, if you remember taking the S.A.T. pre-2005, you remember that the S.A.T. was a 1,600-point test.
Correct. I even remember that.
It is again.
Oh.
The S.A.T. will be scored out of 1,600. The P.S.A.T. is scored on a scale of 320 to 1560, which is a weird combination.
Yeah, it just came out with 1560.
They basically took math and verbal, and they reduced the scoring scale to reflect that they're not giving students all of the knowledge and material on this test as they would be for the S.A.T. So the S.A.T., they're saying, is slightly harder. There's a few concepts that are going to be new versus the P.S.A.T., but otherwise the tests are virtually identical, and they are much more in line with each other, which is a good thing.
Okay. That makes it more, I'd say, more fair in a way. But what I liked before you always brought up is you just typically, at least here on the West Coast, we always hear about the S.A.T. And that's what you study for. But you brought up in many of these interviews that sometimes a student could actually do better on a P.S.A.T. and is accepted just as well as an S.A.T., correct?
Actually, no. The P.S.A.T. actually has nothing to do with college admission itself. So it's one of the great myths. So I'm actually glad you brought that up.
Thank you very much.
The idea that if I do really well on a P.S.A.T., I can get into the college of my dreams is a false statement. The P.S.A.T. score by itself is not part of admission consideration at any school in America. The reason the test is given, one, is it's a great marketing tool for colleges. Two is in 11th grade and only 11th grade, the P.S.A.T. is the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, which means if you score in the top 1.5% of your state, and it's different from state to state, you have the opportunity to earn a $2,500 scholarship being renewable for 4 years. So it's a $10,000 award potentially. But there are also many more schools that they value that title of National Merit Scholarship finalist or winner, and they will pay a lot more money to get you. So I have 2 students right now who are likely going to be finalists or award winners, and I'm telling them, let's find those schools that really are willing to pay for national merit winners, because you'll get a lot more money out of them than just the $2,500.
All right, so we already got a $10,000 gem from Robert Schwartz with Premier College Guidance. Stay tuned. We're going to dive deep on some of the changes in the college planning world, and also some new a new coalition that you should know about that a lot of you don't know about in regard to college guidance and college planning and college acceptance. When we come back to the Don Gino Real Estate and Finance Show on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHGS. Don't go away.